A tissue box cover is a great way to add a little bit extra color and style to your home decor. Now, you can make covers for a variety of different sizes, and you can actually make them reversible as well. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a holiday tissue box cover. So the great thing about this is that it is reversible. So I have a denim fabric that can work all year round. And then just at holiday time, turn it inside out and you have that extra pop of color in your bathroom, your kitchen, or wherever you may have tissues. So regardless of whether you're using a rectangular tissue box or a square cube box, the directions and essentially everything is the same. The only thing that's different is the pattern. And I do have a free pattern that you can download. I'll put that link in the description below. I will also show you the measurements in case you don't want to download that pattern and want to figure it out for yourself. So without further ado, let's figure out how to make a fabric tissue box cover. So these are the pattern dimensions that I use. This is going to be for American tissue boxes, and pretty much they're all standard regardless of the brand that you use. I use Scotty's and Puffs. So for the rectangular one, you want 4.5 inches across, 7.25 inches this way, and place that on the fold. 7.25 inches this way. 5 inches tall, although you probably could get away with 4 3/4, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. And then 2.25 inches this way and 2.25 inches this way. Now for the square or the cube, it is going to be 2.5 inches across. You got 2.25 inches down and then 2.25 inches this way. So this is 6 inches this way, and then we have 4 3/4 inches this way and 1.25 inches tall. So you will need 2 pieces of fabric using that pattern for a single layer tissue box cover, and 2 of each different type of fabric for a reversible tissue box cover. So put the pieces together with the right sides facing each other, and then measure in 3 inches from each side for the rectangular one, and for a square, measure in 1.25 inches from each side. Do not sew in the middle of those measurements. You're going to have an open gap in between, and press open those seams with a hot iron and keep that seam allowance. And so what you have is that gap that is in the middle, which is where the tissues will be coming out. Now you want to match up the sides on the straight edges there and do another 1/4 inch seam allowance and do that on both sides. Now what I personally like to do, just because this is such a fitted project, is I like to just make sure that these measurements are going to work. So at this point, I'm going to turn it inside out, just do a test run on top of the tissue box. And while it's going to be kind of open and gappy at the top, at least you get an idea as to whether or not it's going to fit around the box. This is optional, you don't have to do it. So press those side seams open with a hot iron as well. And then when those seams are pressed open, you are going to take each corner and match the pressed open seams and just kind of like squeeze that fabric together and match up those seams so it looks really good when you turn it inside out later, and then clip those together so they stay put. Do this on each side, and you are going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance for that as well. And just a reminder that you want to start at the very edge of the fabric and go from edge to edge. All right, so now we're really almost done. I love the way that it's those crisp corners and the seams are matching up. Now, if you're only doing a single layer, you can just fold over this edge, do a rolling hem. So just fold over once and then fold over again, and then top stitch that all the way around and you're done. Some people like to put elastic on the bottom to really keep it on the box. So this is how you would do it. You would just put that elastic on the hem before you top stitch, and then get that measurement, pull it across the box and pull it just a little bit tight, cut that, and then attach it to the other side before you do the top stitching. I would do it on both the left and the right hand side. So this is how you're going to do it if you're doing a reversible tissue box cover. So you want to put the 2 right sides of fabric together. I know it's hard to see on the denim. There's not really a right or wrong side on the denim, but you do want to put the right sides of the fabric together. Then you are going to go in and match up those pressed out seams and clip those. That's where you're going to start this process from. And then once you have matched up those seams and secured those, go around and add pins to secure the fabric so that the raw edges are matching. And once everything is pinned, do a stitch all the way around. I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then once that is secure, you're going to turn the tissue box cover inside out. You're going to grab the bottom layer, in this case the red layer, and pull that out through the opening where the tissues would be coming out. And once you get it pulled apart, then tuck the fabric inside. So it's like you're actually creating that tissue box cover look, and just kind of poke out those corners and pull at the seams just in order for the fabric to lay flat. Now, once you've got most of the cover kind of in that shape, then go through and finger press those seams. You want to like pull out the seams as much as you can so it's not like bulky there, and just so that you get that flat look so that you don't see the other piece of fabric when it lays flat. Then do a top stitch around the edge. I put the edge of the fabric with the edge of that gap rather than measuring a 1/4 inch. So in order to keep the fabric laying flat, now I went in around the tissue opening and pinned that together. Make sure the seams are laying flat, and then just do stitching really, really close to the edge. You'll definitely want some thread that coordinates with both of the fabrics, and if it blends in, you won't even see that stitching. But after you have done this, it is done. Now at the beginning of the video, I said you could take a 1/4 inch off the bottom of the pattern piece if you wanted to. And this is the reason. So I like to have that fabric a little bit longer so that it tucks underneath the box. This is just my personal preference. You may not like that. You may want it to come just to the very edge of the box. And in that case, then cut a 1/4 inch off and it will be a little bit shorter and go right to the edge. Now, if you'd like to get that pattern template, and if you prefer written instructions too, I will put a link to the blog post in the description below. Happy sewing!